but my camera hasn't been working for the last week or so. So we'll just go without it. I don't think it's a train smash. I want to share the work with you.
Yeah.
So in the maths and communication modules, I don't really create slides because it's redundant. Like I think it would make more sense to go to the actual work, cover the material, and then you guys go and write the assignments and submit. Okay. Doc, are you attending later also for the maths?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Let me just open up the material I have here. And then I'll share all the material I have. Lucky, you still with me? It seems like he's not with us.
Yeah, his mic is sort of muted there.
Yeah, I can see so. Just opening this up. Okay, so I have SP6 and 7. That's the communication module. So I'm going to start with the first one. Let me
Yeah,
just share this. I'm sure you'll see it sharing.
yeah, I can see.
Okay, so as I said, I'm going straight to the booklet, and then I'll email all of it to you guys by the end of business today. So this is SP6, the formative. You'll see that it's all about English. So this module, this unit standard is called Engage in Sustained Oral Communication and Evaluate Spoken Texts. Okay, and it's all about communication. So it's basically English. You'll see that it says discuss how one shows understanding during a conversation. It's all going to be about how we communicate with each other, how we can gauge to see where another individual is proactively listening and understanding. Okay. Number 2 says describe how conflict is handled in your work environment. So this is a generic conflict management question. Okay. Number 3 says identify characteristics of a speaker's style and tone that alienates an audience. So what are the things that a speaker could do that would create a rift or gap between themselves and the audience? So if you're saying things that's derogatory, if you're not making eye contact, if you're not speaking loud enough, those are the sort of things that could alienate an audience. Okay. It
Oh,
says what is meant by the term point of view. So POV. It's literally just a perspective. It's a lens through which we can see things. Okay.
yeah.
Activity 2, question 1 says, why is it important to analyze own response to spoken slash signed text in relation to audience, purpose, and context? So this question's all about understanding why you've said what you've said and why you've done what you've done in a spoken or even written context. So think about how we communicate at work and how we communicate at home. There's a key difference. Okay, our audience is different. So at work, it will be more professional, more formal, whereas at home, it can be more relaxed and more casual. Okay.
Yeah.
Think about the purpose. So why do we communicate at home? Why do we communicate at work? There's the difference in purpose will affect the type of communication. Okay. And then think about the contexts. So communicating at home, communicating at work is two different contexts. It's two different environments. Okay. Number 2 says discuss how you would handle a situation when confronted by opposing views. So how do we deal with people who don't agree with what we're saying when they have a different perspective, a different lens? Okay. Number 3 says, what does the term register mean in communication? Okay, this is quite simple. There's only two types of registers.
Yeah.
The one is informal
Yeah.
and the other is formal. That's it. There's only two types of registers. So
Oh,
informal would be more casual, more relaxed, more laid back. Formal would be more professional, more appropriate for the workplace, better for that professional conduct. Okay. That's what register is. It can only be one or the other. It can't be both.
okay.
Okay. I'll take that off. Okay, then it says give an example of pedantic, logical, and aggressive language. So give one for each. Um, this is very important. So give me an example of something that's pedantic. So something where the thing being said is just over the top. It's too much. Okay. Give another example of something that's illogical, that doesn't make sense. Like if I said to you, hey, let's watch this fish climb the tree. It's illogical. It doesn't have any fish don't climb trees. It's not logical. Okay. Then it says give an example of aggressive language. So aggressive language is typically anything that has an explanation at the end of it. Okay. So if we say something like you better run. Good example. It's a threat. Okay, anything that's a threat that has an exclamation mark at the end is aggressive language. Okay.
Okay.
Activity 3, question 1 says outline the techniques used for planning, used in planning for presentation or planning the content. So give me steps because it's an outline. So I want the steps. How would you go about planning, to develop content for a presentation? Okay. Number 2 says discuss the impact of nonverbal cues on body language and signals on an audience. Okay. Um, so doctor, how do you know if someone's not listening to you? What kind of body language do you get from them?
Uh, those ignorance kind of signs. Say, for instance, he's talking to someone, whereas I'm still talking to him. It shows that somewhere, somehow, he's not listening to me. You can't be listening to two things at the same time.
That's true. That's true. So someone who, for example, is on their phone while you're talking to them.
Yes.
Yeah. Another like good example of body language is someone whose arms are folded inward, someone who's fidgeting, someone who's not sitting still, someone who's looking the other way, their eyes are not making eye contact with you. Those are all cues or body languages that shows that people are not focused or not paying attention. Okay. And if you're doing a presentation and you go up in front of the audience and you don't move in front of them, you stand in one spot, you're not looking at them directly, you're looking away, and your arms are folded inwards, that means you're uncomfortable. And that's the kind of signal you send to the audience. Okay.
Oh,
Number 3 says analyze the influence of a rhetorical question and explain how they're used for effect on an audience. Okay. Do you know
oh,
what a rhetorical question is?
no.
Okay. It's a question that's asked, but that doesn't require you to answer it. Okay. So if
Oh,
I said to you, don't um we all hate having debt? Okay. This is a good example of a rhetorical question because it's not a question that people need to answer. We all know that everyone hates having debt. No one's ever woken up and said, yes, I love being in financial stress. No
yeah.
one ever wants it, you know what I mean? But that's why it's a rhetorical question because it doesn't need an answer. We all know the answer.
Yes, yes.
Okay. If I said to you, hey, don't we all hate animal abuse? No one's going to say, yes, actually, I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good example of rhetorical, and the same for child abuse. You
Yes.
can't if you're talking to an audience about raising children and you said something like, "Hey, are we all happy with children being abused?" It's a question. People don't have to answer. We all know that they're going to say no, they're not happy with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's used to get people thinking in an audience. So when you ask a rhetorical question, it's all about asking it so that they can think about the thing that you're pointing out. So if we're doing it about like children or animal abuse, it's to get them thinking about the fact that it does happen and the fact that we dislike it. It's not something it's to get them to feel a certain way about the topic you're discussing. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Um, Activity 4 says describe how values, attitudes, and assumptions have an influence on interaction. Okay, so how do our values, our attitudes, and our assumptions? So remember, values are things we carry with us. So it's values are taught to us at when we're a very young age. We're taught certain things like, for example, it's wrong to steal, it's wrong to swear at people, it's wrong to hurt other people. And then attitudes is typically how we feel about different topics. So we might have a positive attitude towards one thing, but a negative towards another. And then we have assumptions. So assumptions are things we assume. And everyone has assumptions. There isn't a single person without an assumption. And even when you can have a conversation with 10 different people, you'll have 10 different assumptions about each of the people you've spoken to. And all of this has an impact on how we interact. It could either mean that the interaction is positive, you get along with the person you're interacting with, or it could be a negative thing, or it could be neutral, like there's no real implication, no real impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number two says identify techniques that are used by speakers to evade responsibility for an issue. So, um, Doc, you don't have any children, do you?
I do.
You do, okay. When your children do something wrong, like they misbehave, do they ever change the topic?
Uh,
You know when you reprimanding them, you're saying, "Hey, son or daughter, you did this wrong." Do they ever change the topic to move on to something else so that they can stop the conversation?
yeah, they do.
Okay, most kids do.
Yeah,
Some kids are too afraid, but most kids try their luck and they
they
try to
just
change the topic to avoid
they just
it.
yes, they just keep quiet and then
Yeah. So
act like
that's what we're talking about in this is how do speakers evade responsibility for an issue? What do they do? So they'll just keep quiet, they'll try and change the topic, move on to another topic.
yeah,
They'll point out other issues, so find blame elsewhere, blame someone else. Or they'll just go to a different problem entirely. Okay.
yes.
A lot of our politicians do that, not to get political, but they do. If
Yeah,
we're having a meeting about the water crisis, they'll focus on load shedding.
exactly.
Uh, You see what I'm saying? Okay, number three says describe the impact that clarity of purpose has on an audience. So remember, the clarity of purpose refers to our intention. Why are we together? Why have we written this piece? Why are we communicating? Okay, understanding the reason why could often, allow the audience to have that first step in receiving the information that you want them to. So if they don't know why you're there to communicate with them, what is the purpose? They won't really take it seriously. They don't have a reason to. So having clarity of purpose gives them a reason to be there. It drives engagement. It makes it easier for them to understand what you're talking about. And I'll give you an example. Okay, so imagine I'm doing a talk on artificial intelligence and how it impacts education. Okay, if my audience doesn't know that that's why I'm there to talk to them, they probably won't even attend because there's no reason. They probably won't see any benefit from being there. Okay, that's why clarity of purpose, being as clear as possible about why you're there and what you're going to do with them is very important. Okay, it gives them that guideline. Okay, so 6.2, it says give examples of various reading and viewing strategies that you can use to respond to text. So there are many different ones. I want you to do research. I want you to go look in the guide. There's a few of them mentioned in the guide. I'll give you an example. So one of them would be skimming. So skimming is when you read through a document and you just look for keywords. Okay,
Yes.
that's one. There's so many others. You just need to give me, I think, about three examples of these. Okay. Number two says identify and explain the role of organizational features in text. So why do we put a company's logo on their documents? Why do we add their header, their banner? Why do we do that? Because it adds credibility. It if it comes from Harvard Business Review and it says Harvard Business Review on it, I'm more likely to trust it than what I would something randomly provided by a stranger that doesn't have those features. Okay. Then it
Yes.
says, what is meant by embedded meaning? So embedded meaning, when you embed something, it means you put it in. And it's normally embedded meaning is more explicit. It can be implicit, but it's most explicit. It's when you put something in, and you say straight up like, this is what I mean. Okay, so it's being very specific, and it's forcing that added meaning into the text that you're sharing. Okay. Number
Yes.
four says explain how values and views have an impact on meaning and target audience. Okay. So remember that your values and views can change the meaning of something that you've written, that's of something that's being said. Um, and it could also impact how the target audience interprets it based on how you've spoken about it. Okay. Um, Let's keep going. So it says, describe in your own words what are the following terms. So what do the following terms mean? So it says synthesis of information, generalization, and then patterns and trends. So when you synthesize information, it means that you make sure it fits together nicely. Okay, it's making sure that information flows from one paragraph to another. It has a good flow. It speaks to each other. It doesn't go against each other. It's not contradictory. Okay. Generalizations is when we speak on in a broad manner. So if I said something like, all BMW drivers don't use their indicators, that's me talking generally. It's a generalization. It's not true for all of them. So I'm speaking for the whole group, and it's not generalizations is often more a negative thing than what is a positive thing. Okay. And then patterns and trends would refer to literally like identifying a key thing that keeps reoccurring and talking about it. Okay, and it's just patterns and trends are basically the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, then at number 2 says use an article from a magazine or newspaper, outline the content and its possible effects on different readers and viewers. So you must just give me an article and tell me what kind of effect or impact that article would have on the different types of readers. Okay. Number 3 says describe the influence of language structure and features in written text. So remember that if we structure our text and it has a flow to it, it might be easier to read, which means that people are more likely to understand what you're saying. And I can share an example of this. Um, Let me show you. So I was literally just making, before we started the session, I was busy making a little blog thing for some of our online groups. Now I'll
Yeah.
show you something. So if I just put the text in normally, let me just go, this is all from GPT.
Yeah.
Um, it's not pasting the way I thought it would, but I'll show you. So if I go and I remove this. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the structure away from the text.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll just do this. Keep going. Let me just, I'm going to delete this one also. And then let's go D, add this space. Okay, keep going. Yeah, it's taking longer than I thought, but I'm just going to show you something. Also,
Yeah.
it will make sense. I'm nearly done. Okay, so now when we look at this, and let me just, I can also just take these out. So it's picking up a lot of the spaces I've deleted. It kind of wants those spaces.
Okay.
It's not a problem. Okay, when we look at this now, do you think this is easy to read?
Mm,
I can zoom in a little more. I'm going to keep going down.
yeah. Yeah. No, it's not easy.
It's not. We've taken all the structure away.
Yes.
When we
Yes.
compare it to this, which is the original structure of it,
Yes. Yes.
it's a lot more easier to read.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what this question is about. It's about like what happens when we structure it. What happens when we add features. So, for example, I'll share another thing, which is a key feature in most texts. This is all bold, which is it has an impact. But if
Yeah.
I just remove the boldness from the middle text, it makes these headings stand out a lot more. And you see that?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's
Yes.
one of the effects that they're alluding to in text.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, this is what the question is about. What is the influence of language structure? So having paragraphs and then features such as bold text, and even if you add italics and you can say what, let me just show you, Control I, nope. Okay, and then I can just this. So yeah, these are all sorts of little things that they're referring to is when you add italics, when you add your quotation marks, when you
Yeah.
add bold and that's what it's referring to. All of these have an effect on the reader, And in most cases, it makes it easier to read, easier to understand. Okay, so let me just remove these because this is not a part of the answer. I was just demonstrating.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now let's go to number 4. It says explain the effect of production techniques in visuals. So remember, there are many different things we can do in visuals. We can, add effects. We can make it faster, slower. There are many different effects that it could have. But explain what kind of effects some of the visuals can have on an audience. Okay, like if you do it wrong, it looks bad, certain visuals. But if you do it properly, it makes it look professional. It looks like you can present it anywhere. And also, normally production techniques age. So if you're not up to date, it will look really bad. It will look outdated. So yeah, all of those play a factor in the final vision you're creating. Okay. Let's keep going to 6.3. So 6.3 says, explain how the purpose of communication is determined. So how do we decide what is the purpose? Often your purpose is decided by what your action is, what your intent is. What are you trying to do? Okay. Number 2 says, what is meant by expository writing mode? Okay. It's a writing mode that is available um on this platform. I just need to remember how to set it up. Um, it's just a different way of looking at your document, and what it does is it's meant to like show errors, and show a lot of um like mistakes that were made to try and kind of like point it out so you can fix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then number 3 says give 3 different narrative voices that can be used. So you can have, remember your voice would alter. The thing that would change is tonality. So you can have a happy narrative voice, a sad narrative voice, a positive one. There are many different ones. You could just give me 3 different types. Okay. Um, Number activity 2, question 1 says draft a report on a topic of personal interest. Ensure that these points are logically sequenced to build a convincing conclusion. So they want you to write a report on a topic. You can pick any topic you want as long as it's interesting to you. There must be a body. Sorry, there must be an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Okay, there must be these 5 points in paragraph form. Okay,
Yeah.
they want that. That's the question there for a report. Then it says rewrite the paragraph, identify weaknesses and errors in the text, rearrange information that promotes interest for target audience. Okay, so they've given you this very little paragraph. They want you to fix it, and they want you to make sure you organize it in a way that makes logical sense. Okay. Number
Okay.
3 says discuss and give examples of rhythm and tone used in writing. So remember that everything that's written, especially in the English language, has a rhythm to it, and that's because we have syllables. So I'll give you an example. Uh, when something is one syllable, it means that your your tongue touches the top of your mouth like once, or
Yeah.
it doesn't touch it. So if it's one syllable, it doesn't touch it at all. If it's if it's got 2 syllables, then it touches it once. If it's got 3, it's twice. That sort of thing. So a good example of one syllable would be like the word and. Okay, and is good because it's one syllable. And an example of a word that's got 2 syllables would be between, between.
Yeah.
And all of these play a role in rhythm. Okay, if you have words that have more syllables, it completely destroys the rhyme. It would probably be more difficult to pronounce. But if you have like uh monosyllabic and 2 syllable words, it's obviously going to flow more easily. It's going to be more natural sounding. Okay, and then tone just refers to, is it happy? Is it sad? Is it excited? Is it overjoyed? What is the feeling that the words are kind of evoking? Okay. Number 4 says discuss and give examples of stylistic devices used in writing. Give 3 key devices only. Okay, there are many different ones. You can use like I'll give you one to help you. So alliteration, it's a good one.
Yeah.
And an example of alliteration, I spelled it wrong, would be like the big bad boy bikes. And it's this repeated letter, the repetition of the B's, which is alliteration. Okay. There's another one called three of a kind.
Mhm.
And a good example of this would be the child, cat, and dog are all at home. And it's three of a kind, so it's listing three things. That's what this is. Okay. I'll give you a simile also. I always spell it wrong. Okay, I think I spelled it right now. And as I do get it right. And a good example of a simile would be when we compare things. So you can say, the car was as fast as the, let me just think, the speed of light.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we're doing here is we're comparing the speed of the car to the speed of light.
Yes.
Yeah, and this could also be another one. So I'll copy it again. This could be two techniques. It just allows me to copy it. There we go. Could be exaggeration. Which is a technique. Exaggeration is also known as hyperbole. Okay. There is, let me just think, there's another one. Oh, this one's difficult to spell, easy to say. It's onomatopoeia. Trying to remember the spelling. Onomatopoeia. There we go. Very difficult to spell.
Yeah.
But basically, it's when you have words that sound like sounds. So if you say boom or bam,
Bang.
yeah, anything in a comic book,
Yeah.
that's on a onomatopoeia. Okay,
Okay.
this thing's saying I didn't spell bam right. Okay, yeah, any of that. And ironically, this is also, what is this? What technique is this?
Mm.
It's also alliteration. We're repeating the B.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, I have one more. Let me think, what is it? Oh, a metaphor.
Oh,
Uh,
metaphor.
yeah, I like metaphors. Um, I'm just trying to think about, there are a lot of popular metaphors. Um, let me just think. Oh, yes. To kill. Have you ever heard this expression before? To kill two birds with one stone.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a metaphor. We all know that it means, that
So
you're gonna.
it's sort of we're going back to the what do you call this? The figure of speeches.
Yeah, very
Oh,
true.
yeah. Okay.
Very true. Let me just fix this. Yeah. So yeah, this is all, yeah. You only needed to do three. I kind of got distracted. I like talking about these things.
Oh,
I've been a big fan of like hip hop music, so I always look for the usage of these things.
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so this is just some examples. Okay, where should I put this? So just put this in the chats.
Okay.
Can you see it in the chats?
Yes.
Okay, so you can just take it from there. You can take 3 and you can keep them. Okay, so I'm going to remove this so it's not in the document when I send it. Okay, let's go to 6.4. 6.4 says define a print resource and give 3 examples. So a print resource would be things that are printed out. So think about textbooks, pamphlets, letters, any of those things, anything that's printed out. Then just give us 3 examples. So give us an example of a textbook. Give us an example of a memo. You can call it the Brian's and Country Club memo. Just give me 3 different resources and 3 different examples. Okay. Number
Mm,
2 says discuss how learning resources can be used and managed to promote learning. Okay. One of the things we used to believe when I started lecturing and facilitating is that everything needs to be printed and given to the students on day one. Um, we stopped doing that because it overwhelms the learners. In fact, we've stopped printing things now also because students don't keep the stuff. In fact, they just give it back to us, and it's just wasted printing. So now we give everything digitally. Um, Number 3, so yeah, so there are many different ways, and if you have structured your resources properly, you can really ensure that learners are focused on the key things that they need to be focused on, and they're using the resources appropriately. Okay.
okay.
Number 3 says explain summarizing as a learning strategy. So how can summarizing be used to learn? Okay, pretty straightforward. Number 4 says, in what way are skimming and scanning similar? So this is your reading strategies. I'm not going to go into too much detail because if I do, it will answer one of the other questions. So you must just go through the guides, do some research online, and you'll see it's quite straightforward. Number 4 says, and this is what is the difference between them? So they want to know what is the difference between skimming and scanning. Okay. 5
Okay.
says, mention 4 ways in which asking questions can help in learning. Okay, pretty straightforward. I can't really add anything to that. Number 6 has mentioned two things to bear in mind when organizing learning materials that are loose pages, so handouts and notes, for example. So how would you manage your handouts and notes if I gave you those? Okay, the 2 things to keep in mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Activity 2 says select a topic for further research from one of the unit standards. So you can select any of the topics, any of the subjects from the previous content shared. And it says conduct a research with the following, using the following to present your findings. So it says identify an appropriate relevant topic. Then it says plan and sequence research steps appropriately. So show the steps. Then it says apply research techniques. So gather the information. Then it says show how you'll sift through the information above. Show in your research report how the above information will be classified, categorized, so how it will be sorted, and then include a conclusion and recommendations. So they want a report. Again, it's going to be very similar to this other report, the one that we had to do before. This
Yeah.
one, yeah. So what I would do is I'd start with this one and I'd make this report simple. Very simple. And then I take this report and then I'll add to it. I'll further develop it in this question. Yeah. So you can have the same the topic, but make the first one simple and the second one more complicated. Add all the finer details to the second one.
Okay.
Okay. Then number 2 says give examples of active participation taking place in a group learning situation. So how do we know all participants are taking place? What kind of examples? So I think a good example would be they're talking, they're engaging with each other. Another example would be they're delivering. You can also just go look at Tuckman's model. Tuckman's model assumes that everyone is actively participating. Okay. Number 3 says describe the responsibilities that team members have towards their team. So every team member will have a different sort of responsibility, but in generally speaking, they all have a weight to pull, and they must all pull their weight and contribute towards a team success. Okay. Number
Okay.
4 says discuss why conflict management and negotiation techniques are needed in the workplace. So why are these skills needed? Why are they important? Okay. Number 5 says, what do you believe is any team's goal? Okay, remember any team's goal is to meet an objective, to meet their goals, to obtain them, to play their part, to motivate their other teammates. That's generally the space in terms that they'd operate in.
Yeah.
Okay. Then number three says it's a role play. Okay, so this question, I think you guys must just skip this one. Then I'll assist with it.
Which one?
This this one, I'll highlight it.
Okay.
Okay, because we're not going to do a role play. Okay. Then number two says create a table in which you list all the companies in your area or that your workplace deals with, and then tell us what the name of the company, the industry sector, the size of the company, and the type of the company. Okay. Then number three says describe how different workplaces are listed above are affected by learning, and then use examples. So what kind of learning would take place in those different organizations? Then number four says what career opportunities or learning opportunities are available in your workplace at the moment. Okay. So it's
Okay.
going to be very different answers for everyone in these last few questions. Okay, so that's basically the workbook. Let me go to the summative. I think I should go to the other workbook, and then the summative will be very similar. So the questions are repeating itself. A learning resource, four learning strategies is all very similar. Explain all steps involved in the research process. So literally based off of the research report you're doing. Explain the difference between fighting and conflict. Okay, there is a difference. Define occupational environments in your own words. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna skip these because I want us to do SP8. And you'll see that there's the workplace activities. So it says in a presentation, describe the strategies that can be used to be an effective speaker. What? So using a presentation format. Okay, then it says prepare a presentation regarding the effects of content, language, and style. Then it says prepare a presentation on a topic of your choice. So all three of these ones you can do together in one presentation.
Okay.
Okay, you can do it in one presentation. Just make sure your presentation touches on the different topics. Okay.
Okay.
And then the last one says write a letter in response to an inquiry. So come up with a letter and then respond to it.
Okay.
Okay. And that is the
Can you give me
SP6.
the example of the letter? How it should be like?
So imagine a client has sent you a letter or an email of request, and now you must just respond to it in a letter format.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It must just be a letter, you know. You don't have to put the addresses on, like, you know, a lot of people put that address on the top right-hand corner and on the bottom. Don't do that. It's fine. Just give me a letter.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Let me see. So we were supposed to do SP8 also, because it's communication. We want to do all the communications together.
Okay.
So it's a lot of work, but it's the last bit. You know what I mean? We're busy wrapping up. Okay, so the first question here, they say, how much do you need communication in the course of your job? So they want you to put ticks. You know, so do you work with people every day? Do you advise or counsel other staff members? Do you interview job applicants? Do you conduct meetings? So if you do, you just tick to understand how much, you know, how many, and then it says total list out of 25. So how much did you tick out of 25? And
Mm.
then take that your answer. So if I've ticked this 5 times, I'll say 5 divided by 25, and then I'll put that answer yeah to complete this question.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Then it says, what is impromptu speech and how do you deal with it? Okay, so impromptu speech is when you do a speech on the spot. You know, you make it up on the spot. There are many different components or approaches you can take to impromptu speeching. I think maybe just remain calm, try and address the objective or the issue at hand, and where you don't know, try and curtail. So keep it short if you don't know the particular area or thing you're talking about. Okay. Number 3 says identify gestures, facial expressions, and elements of posture that can make one look uncomfortable and nervous. So this is all about body language again, which kind of alludes to the previous module.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Number activity 2, question 1 says, how assertive are you? Encircle the answer that best represents your most dominant behavior. So they've given you different scenarios. So my behavior in conflict situation is, and you just circle the one that best, depicts you. Okay. In these questions, there's no right or wrong. You just have to answer them the way you would.
Actually,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't have to go through them because it's going to be different for everyone.
Okay.
And then you'll see that if you mostly got ones, there's a behavioral style. If you've mostly got twos, there's a style there. Threes, there's a style, and four, there's a styles.
Uh,
Okay.
mm,
Now it says change the following aggressive sentences and make them more assertive. So you can see these are very aggressive. So number one says, "Can't you ever do anything right?" That's very aggressive.
yeah.
Maybe so now what we want to do is we want to convert this aggressive statement, we want to make it more assertive. So maybe you could approach it like this by saying, instead of saying, "Can't you ever do anything right?" Maybe you should say, "Do it again," and I don't know. There's got to be a way to say it in an assertive manner. Um, you just think, yeah. So maybe you just say something like, redo this and try and get it right this time," something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it says, I want to finish the century if it's, that's very weird. I want it finished the century if it's not too much trouble. Oh, this is very sarcastic, very aggressive. So maybe to be assertive, you can say, I need this done by today, as opposed to being sarcastic and aggressive. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3 says, you stupid fool, I told you not to do that. Okay. To be assertive and not aggressive, maybe we can change that and we can say, you got this wrong. Let's try and do it again. Okay. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to take these and make it less aggressive, but let's see what you can come up with.
Okay.
Okay. Then it says one of your teammates has not performed up to standard. Using the sandwich method, give him or her feedback on their performance. Make sure that she or he knows the following. So, what the standards are, what he or she is doing, what needs to be changed to meet the standards, how long he or she has to improve, what support he or she can expect from you as a supervisor or a direct manager, and other role players. So, when they say sandwich method, they're talking about, having an introduction, a body, and a conclusion.
Okay.
Okay. Then number 4 says, how well do you listen? So do you block out people when they say? So this is again very personal, very subjective. I'm going to leave it to you to answer. Number
Yeah.
5 says, what aspects of your listening skills need to improve? So it's very reflective, very personal. Again, we're not going to be marking you wrong if you answer a very specific answer. Okay.
Okay.
Number 3 says you suspect that one of your team members is not telling you the whole truth about a certain work-related incident. State the situation and then write down questions you would ask. Also, write down the team members' expected answers. So make up the situation. You can literally make it up. Give us the context. And then come up with questions you'd ask them and try and predict their answers.
Okay.
Okay, 2 says briefly describe the meeting procedure that you usually follow with your team. So if you have a meeting, what kind of process do you follow? If you don't do meetings, what do you think it would be? Okay. Then it
Okay.
says, how do you handle the following? So a difficult question and then a difficult person in a meeting. Okay.
Uh,
Let's go to 8.2. It's a lot of work, but it's the last push.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is very similar to the previous one. So it's skimming and scanning again. I'm going to skip those ones. Then it says, what would you recommend someone to do when he or she has a limited time to read? What kind of technique should they approach if they have a limited time to read? Then it says define the following. So what is a fact? What is an opinion? So a fact is something that you can prove, that could be proven to be true, that could be tried and tested. An opinion is subjective, and everyone has opinions, but they're not always facts. They're not always correct. Okay, they can't always be proven. Okay. Then it says reading and viewing strategies. Select an article from a business newspaper and attach it. Find 5 words in the article that are new to you. Um, List them and write down their meanings. Then it says write down one factual sentence and one sentence which reveals someone's opinion or point of view from the article. Then it says evaluate your article according to the following criteria. So is it a register? So what is the register? Is it formal or informal? There isn't semi-formal. That's not a real thing. Okay, then tell us what the tone is. Is it condemning? Is it neutral? Is it mocking? Is it supportive? Is it happy, sad? There are other tones. Is it meant for a selected audience, or is it generalized? So is it speaking to a general audience? Okay, are the opinions, so does it approve, disapprove, or is it another type of opinion that's being shared? And then what is the purpose of this article? Okay, and they've given you the space here to write your answers. Number 2 says, why does the heading of an article attract your attention? So think about the article you've attached. Why does that specific that heading in the article attract your attention? Number 3 says, was the conclusion effective or ineffective? Why do you say what you say? Okay, let's go to 8.3. So in 8.3, they give you an article, it's an extract from a story, and then they ask you questions on the story. So it says, what is the theme of the scene? Um, I'm not going to go through the questions because this is going to be very much related to the text. It's not a problem. I'm sure you guys can manage it. Um, yeah, I don't know why this is here. Okay, I'm going to keep going to the next section. 8.4. Yeah, so it says tick the types of technical writing you do in your workplace. So do you send emails, yes or no? Do you send memos? Do you use manuals? Do you do proposals, presentations, progress reports, budget reports? So just tick the ones you use. Tell us who the audience is. And do you think that they're a skimmer or they're a skeptic? So just tell us which one they are, either or. Okay. Number 2 says from the table above, select one skimmer and one skeptic from your list and say how you adapt your writing for each of them. Okay. Um, and then number 3 says, how would you advise Jane to change her message to George? At least 3 changes and explain why you'd make these changes. Okay. So this is her communication, not the best. There isn't a subject. Okay, so how can what are 3 changes we could make to this? Okay, then 4 says briefly explain the purpose of each of the following parts of your research report. So think about the reports you've done before. What is the point of having an introduction? What is the point of a body? What is the point of a conclusion? Then it says choose the correct verb. So they want you to circle it. If you're doing it on a computer, you can just highlight it. Okay. Then it says join the following sentences. So you must join the sentences using the words. So before, this is very much like a grade 7 kind of task. It's not too high level. I'm sure you guys will manage. Okay. Then it says study the following list of sources and answer the questions that follow. Let me see. So, yeah, so they've given us a source here. And then they ask, what are they doing here? Okay. Oh, so then they ask you these questions, these 5 questions. So ask, where was Robert Day's book published? So it should be, let me just see. So it would be ARCS. Okay, and then it says, name the publisher of the book. So, oh, sorry. So the book was published in Phoenix and it was published by Oryx. Then it says write down the protocol. So this is the protocol right here. And then it says, write down the host name. The host name's got to be a somewhere. Okay. It could be, you could just take it from this. It would be, yeah, it would be this. So if we go and you just take this, that's your host name without the additional stuff on the side. Okay, and it says write down the name of the file. So the name of the file would be how to write and publish scientific paper. Okay. Then it says attach two similar job position adverts and select the one that you'd apply for and why. Okay. Then it says attach another advert and underline the key phrases. Okay, and that's the SP8. It's quite big, it's quite lengthy. It touches on NQF5 a little. So I know that you guys are busy doing NQF4, but it does dabble in 5 a little, which is good, but it means that you're getting the benefit of high level content. Okay. So that's basically the workbook for SB8. I'm not going to go through the summative. I want to go through the workplace requirements instead. The summative will be very similar to the workbook itself. If I go down and go to the end, it says, what do you understand about diversity? It gives you a case study. They want you to answer some questions again. Okay, so I'm going to skip all of this. I just want to go to the workplace requirements. So it says, drop a presentation on a situation in your workplace that you feel needs to be changed. Okay, so they want slides again. Then it says attach 3 reports that you have written in the course of your job. So yeah, so you can find templates, you can find draft samples online. You can also use that as evidence. Then it says attach copies of written instructions, so an email, a memo, or even a written warning. But you must have at least 3 different types. Okay, and that's basically the workplace requirement for SP8. Okay, that's SP6 and SP8. In our later session, we will do SP7. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, it sounds like we're all good. Okay, Lucky, are you there now? Are you back? Okay, that's fine. Doc, I'm gonna hop off then. Then we'll continue later with SP7. Okay, in SP7, I'm actually going to be assisting a lot more. Okay, and then I will share all the work with you before the end of business today. Okay, thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your, well, enjoy until like 1 o'clock when we hop on for the maths. Okay, take care, guys. Bye.